Before we begin this video, I am going to do a quick 15-second typing test just so you guys can get a picture of where I'm at in this particular skill. If you guys ever try to do this on your own, monkey type is the best one. Forget everything else. Dude, oh, that's embarrassing. And I'm trying to do commentary too. Dude, Jesus Christ, I'm trash. Dude! Okay, as you can see, not very impressive. And this actually reveals some flaws I have in the way I type. You can see my raw words per minute here is 108. Like, that's pretty darn fast, man. That is well above the average. But my effective words per minute of what I was actually typing correctly is 62. I usually average around 80. I'm not gonna lie, that was a particularly bad run, which is of course why it's the one that gets captured on camera. The good takes exist in stream highlights somewhere. I'm not looking for them because I'm not here to defend it. I have 66% accuracy, and I know why. It's because I crush hard on autocorrect when it comes to desktop typing. I mean, obviously on mobile as well, I make a lot of typos because the letters are so small, but not the point. It's kind of a sobering thought to think that, like, I ended up not going to college, I made, like, hundreds of hours of videos in my free time as a kid, would ride the coattails of any trend at the start of my career, and finally somehow, against the odds, secure my dream job of becoming a YouTuber, and how much of it these days just boils down to writing shit. Hi again, guys, and welcome back to Quite with a Y. And this is actually a topic partially inspired by an email somebody sent me 2 years ago. I've only recently started going through the massive backlog there, but if you guys want to send topics, it's available in the description. It was something along the lines of, how did you learn to type? What stupid stuff did they have you in computer lab doing? And I wanted to expand that to a more general talk about my relationship with the act of typing, I guess. Because I'm not gonna lie, I take it for granted pretty often. I was born in 2000, so there was like a time in my childhood where having a cell phone when you were a kid was not like a ubiquitous thing, so my screen time was what I was able to do on the computers at school and the family computer at home. For the longest time, my typing was just hitting things with my pointer fingers and trying to get fast at that, and it was not until, I believe, like, 4th grade that I actually got some proper instruction on the matter. In elementary school, they actually had the foresight to start teaching us a skill in writing that we'd need for the workforce when we reached adulthood. I only learned cursive in 5th grade, and then I know that my school phased it out literally the year after I left, so I learned just enough to get my signature. But they drilled how to type into your head. They had like this submarine or space exploration-based educational game in the computer lab that like 30 of us at a time would just be told to get on and just do the lessons in order and learn how to type with the correct fingers. And the mistake these guys made was they made it so that you could do the test to move on to how to type the next letter without actually taking the lesson. As a kid, I didn't have the eye for side questing and doing the optional task that I have now. I became much more of a completionist as I got older, but I wanted to be the person furthest ahead in the class, so I would just go straight to the test, and I wouldn't be typing how you were supposed to. I was still using my pointer fingers, I was just getting my word speed up with that. I think I got away with that for like a week or two straight, and it severely hindered my progress. Like, I was ahead of everybody, but had learned the least. I think it was the teacher who said, well, you're kind of wasting time. I don't remember if they kind of made me do this or I just had like an uncharacteristic stroke of foresight for my age at the time, because I know at some point in the unit I restarted the entire thing and actually learned to type the way you're meant to. Those lessons didn't all stick. I do not type the quote-unquote correct way, or at least how they taught us in school. I be crossing my left hand over the right side a lot just out of habit, but it doesn't really matter if I'm hitting 100 words raw per minute, and we're actually having typos in practice doesn't matter as much. I've been thinking about how people type in general and everybody's individual little quirks with it recently, because it's kind of struck me how people don't learn how to type the same way that I did these days. When I was still in middle school through high school, I remember watching them transition from the Windows XP OS over to Windows 7 after like a decade of using it. And I also remember when iPads got introduced to the curriculum. It feels like the tablet is the current device of choice to educate the youth using software. Sure, the tablet has a keyboard that pops up that's formed like a real keyboard, but it's a touchscreen. It doesn't have the feedback, and it doesn't come with the tactility you get from actually typing stuff. And while I think you can write perfectly well on an iPad specifically, maybe not so much a phone, there's a genuine bottleneck that typing speed will have on a tablet over a keyboard. And it kind of ties into the wider trend of tech literacy and the youth just dying. Like, the amount of people I've talked to who are my age or younger, viewers and people I know in real life, the fact that more than once I have asked someone if they know what a file browser is, or at least the discussion was something that brought the topic up, I've been told no, I don't recognize it. And that's because Apple, at least in their phones and their tablets, they have an obsession making the file explorers on those devices a pain in the ass to use. Like, they exist, you can technically download files that don't have a dedicated app to open them on your phone, but the sorting options are dog shit. It doesn't natively play or open everything you can, which fair, a phone is dedicated to being a mobile device, but when you're talking about things like tablets replacing a computer with something like Windows on it, the tech literacy that we got from fumbling around either on home computers or in computer lab, those are like soft skills I learned as prerequisites that I would have had to learn if I didn't know already to do the job I really wanted to do. Like, how common is it for people to just bring like a tablet or an ultrabook to a college seminar instead of hunking around a laptop? So I think it's important to take a look back on everything and see what exactly we were doing as kids to actually be convinced typing was a fun thing to learn. Turns out in my adulthood, I think they're right. I love doing typing races, dog. I think the one that gets brought up a lot as a kind of joke is Typing of the Dead. It was a Sega official spin-off of House of the Dead where you had to type in words correctly and fast enough to kill the enemies on your screen, otherwise you were gonna get eaten alive. I never really played it, honestly. I don't think it got as gory as the actual House of the Dead games or the ones you'd see in the arcade, but I can't imagine it being a fulfilling experience. There's a lot of in-browser typing games you'll see around. I remember Nitro Type being the go-to game when I was a kid and when you're also just shit-talking in Discord calls these days, because it's like the easiest one of these games to jump into that you can make a competition. There aren't many greater motivators than proving you're better than someone at something that doesn't matter. Except typing does matter. Most adults these days cap out at 40 to 50 words per minute. A satisfactory words per minute count is like 60 to 80, man. And with the demands of the workplace only increasing, asking for more of you with less pay, I can only imagine the skill floor is gonna get higher. Over the years, my typing speed has not been this fast all the time. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think my accuracy has ever been any better. It's never gone above 80% consistently. Like, probably in high school, I was closer to that 60 to 80 range. When in school, the stuff I had to write in order to move on to whatever the next thing was usually not stuff I was super passionate about. You know, like essays, stuff required by class. But when I'd started to really get into it and lock into just the efficiency aspect of it was when I started scripting videos for YouTube before I graduated. Eventually, when the main channel started taking off, I was scripting pretty much all of my videos, as well as like doing notes and researching, that type of thing. Just pages of stuff every day, and if you don't know, the way I script is I get a Google Doc, use the default font and size, and then it's one big block of text from top to bottom until I'm sure it's long enough I can put mid-rolls on the video. And just doing that day in, day out for the better part of 7 years now, typing is probably the muscle memory I've actively worked the most. Part of me is curious to see if I've hit my ceiling already. Ideally, if everything keeps going at least semi-well, then I should be doing YouTube for a while still, and that means more writing, more typing, just practicing the same thing again over. But like any skill, the amount of hours you put in kind of has diminishing returns. Like, will the next 5 years only improve my raw input words per minute by like 10? I'm thankful to the powers that be and my finger muscles for being able to even do like 108 words per minute reliably enough with Google Docs fixing the mistakes I'm bound to make that I can use it practically. But when I see a number that big attached to any skill or thing that I do, my ego starts to inflate a bit, you know? It's like, I want to push the limits of this. It's like a weird kind of sunk cost fallacy where, sure, the thinking is I'm in too deep, I have to go harder. It's more like I'm in deep and seen results. I want more. And you know, with typing, I think that's a semi-realistic one to try and build up. Like, ooh, big number on YouTube is cool, but like that's gonna cap out a certain point, and a lot of it is due to luck. Typing? That's just up to me. How much am I gonna do that thing? It also has to do with my plans for the eventual retirement home I think I'll be staying in. I'm not really sure if I'll have kids, and if I do, I doubt they'll like me enough to take care of me themselves, and I'm really not gonna blame them for that, I get it. But when you're retired, you need hobbies, and you can't be doing none of the physical stuff you did when you were younger. My theory is that since every generation since the medium started has gotten more and more into video games as a mainstream activity, that as people get older and older into retirement age, video games is probably gonna become the #1 pastime for most retired adults, elderly folk. And I've seen the shit that old people can actually do in games. There's like this one real-life sniper who's cracked on Battlefield, so I want to keep my phalanges nice and limber for the keyboard when the only thing I have left to do is like actually play video games. I mean, from that angle, the whole kids not learning how to type correctly anymore is kind of a benefit to me because it means they'll be trasher at games. I can not only lord over people I'm cross-playing console with, I can also dunk on people who just did not have Typing of the Dead in their Rolodex of PC programs to learn from. Okay, this is usually the part where I would say the kwytebox email is in the description to send topics to. It still is, but I want to try something. I have a confession prompt I want y'all to give me. Tell me the stupid way in which which your hamster died. The hope is in one of these upcoming videos I'll cover the funniest ones I find and either make fun of the hamster for dying or you for letting it die the way it did. Anyways, yeah, that's all I got. Piss off.